Hi, and thank you for joining me today, and in today's video I'm going to be documenting some photos from our Christmas Day 2021, and this was when I'd cooked the Christmas meal and we were all sitting down together. My sister and her family and mum and dad and Ross's dad all join us for Christmas Day, which is really lovely. Normally we would also have my dad's brother and his wife who come down from Scotland, but last year COVID restrictions meant that they weren't comfortable getting the train down to see us, so it was sad that they weren't there, but they will be there this year, so that's nice. So first of all, I wanted to create a vertical line down the centre of the page, and I'm using my Shimmerz paints. It's one of the Inklings, and this is Sage It Isn't So. So I use the packaging technique to add the vertical strip down the middle, and now I'm finding various circular items around the house to create these like coffee rings on the layout. So I started off with a plant pot, and then I moved on to the lid from the Inklings, and now finally I'm using the lid from my Glossy Accents. It's just to find different sized circular pieces to use to create this. And then I'm finally going to water down what's left on the packaging and just add some splatters. So this will be left to dry. As you can see, it's dry now, and I just wanted to see where I'd missed bits because I wanted to layer this up with a different colour. So this time I'm going in with a Shimmerz paint, and this one is called Green Olive. So doing exactly the same thing, adding some to the packaging, watering it down a tiny bit, and then using the packaging technique to smear this over the layout. And I knew that I wanted to add some to that right hand side there. When I put the photos down, I saw that that was missing some mixed media, and the bottom left as well. So just slowly building things up, again coming in with the different circular objects from around the house. So starting off with this plant pot, or I don't know whether it's a plant pot or a tea light holder or what it is, but we just use it to store our candles in, actually, that we use with our burner. So now again coming in with the Inklings lid, and then I think I come back with the Glossy Accents. Oh, I'm adding some splatters at this point. Yes, here's the Glossy Accents lid. And then finally, when I've done this, I want something a little bit bigger, but not as big as the plant pot. And then I happen across one of the kids' empty drinks cans. So I use that, this Fanta can. And that creates some great rings. And as you can see, it's just a little bit smaller than the rings that were created by the plant pot. So I like the look of that. So now that's all dry, I'm going to start layering up the mats behind the photos and embellishing the whole layout. So I've just pulled out I've got a box with Christmas in. It's got all my past Christmas papers and embellishments and things. So I've just pulled that out to make this layout. I don't think there's anything new in this, just using the older pieces, apart from I'll be using a Hey Little Magpie flare and one of the JD3DPrint Christmas titles. But otherwise it's all old stash, so quite nice to be using that up. So just adding some strips of papers behind the photos, and I'm going to stick with the traditional red and green and white, of course, around this. So just trying to work out exactly where I want to position these and how I want it all to go. And this is just one paper, you can see it's the holly and berries on one side and then that lovely red gingham on the other side. So I'm going to commit and start sticking things down, because otherwise I'll just play forever trying to work out what to do. Sometimes I just need to go for it and then work around what I've done. So adding these strips down either side before moving on to the next bit. And once I've added these, I definitely want to bring some green in. So I do find this green, and this was used actually to make the table decorations for that year. I always make some little favours to put on the plates for Christmas dinner. I will be doing a photo hopefully this week of those. You will have seen it right at the very beginning, but I decided that the 2 photos of the table was enough on this layout, and I'll create a separate layout for the other photo. So this is just some leftover paper from those favour bags, so it's quite nice to incorporate that into the layout. And I think I'm going to add it here. And I do have a lot of playing and faffing, and I love the reverse of the paper as well, this grey with the white stars, so I use a little bit of that there. And then start to build it up Being quite decisive today, it was nice. So when I put that behind, I realised that I don't actually need anywhere near that amount of paper because it's all going to be hidden. So I just chop a piece off the top and use that to layer. I noticed that that grey star piece was slightly wonky, so that was me just trimming it to make sure it fitted. And here we go, just cutting that piece off to tuck behind. I don't need a whole piece all the way behind the photo. It's just a waste. So, and that's that mat at the top built up quite nicely. And this other piece that I'm playing with here now has got some lovely stamps on saying delivered 25th of December, and I really like that it's got that on there. So after having a play, I decide that I can actually include that at the bottom of the bottom photo and keep that in view rather than hiding it as a photo mat. So just coming in with my T-ruler here because I've stuck the two photos together now to check that they're straight. And that's when I noticed that that bit at the bottom isn't quite straight, but I just scuff it up with my fingernail, and then of course I have to do all the other bits. Just spend a little bit of time scuffing all these pieces. I think it's nice, it adds to the distress look, especially because we've got the mixed media on the background, which is definitely more of a distress look. So just scuffing up all those edges. It also hides when things aren't quite straight. When they're distressed, you don't notice quite so much, so it's worth spending a bit of time doing this if you're worried. Nearly there now. And there we go. So now, as I say, I'm going to start to play with this green piece, and this is when I realise I have to trim off a little bit, I haven't cut it very well, that I can actually use it and keep those stamps on there. So that's me just using my finger to mask it off to see if it would work, and it does. So just trim off the edge, and again scuff up the edges, and then that will be glued down onto the bottom. I do love these vertical layouts with the vertical photos down the centre of the layout, but I'm worried I'm doing too many at the moment, so I'll have to try a different technique in my next video. So now that's all glued into place. Bring in my T-ruler again to check that everything's straight. And I realise that that's moved a bit. I'm still using that cheaper PVA glue. It's great once it's stuck down, but it doesn't grip very well at the beginning. And then I want to come in with just some doodling. So I'm adding some vertical lines at the top and bottom, just to draw the eye right the way down from the very top of the page to the bottom. And I start with vertical, and then I add a few horizontal just to break it up a bit. And this is a 0.1 nozzle, nib pen nozzle. Gosh, I think I'm thinking of glue still. It's a pale grey, I think, this one. Or dark grey. In fact, no, I'm looking at it, it's black, isn't it? So finish with that doodling, and here's that JD3DPrint title. We also sell this as a cut file, and it would be great to use as a cut file, but I like the texture and height that you get from the JD3DPrint pieces, so that's why I wanted to add that onto here. So just going to check the positioning, and then I shall glue this whole photo mat down onto the background. So just double checking that everything's straight before I go ahead with the glue. And now that's all stuck into place, I can add the JD3DPrint title. So again, I'll use my T-ruler to make sure that I get this straight. Not the easiest thing to do because the letters are up and down, but I make it in the end. And again, I'll just be gluing this down with the wet adhesive, the PVA glue, and get a nice stick using that. I just spend some time roughly going around all of the letters, because the card's a little bit warped from the mixed media underneath. You just want to make sure that that sticks down properly. And that's it. And I really like the way that that vertical title looks on there. So now this little sticker is Home Sweet Home. I think it's one of the Cocoa Vanilla ones. I just had it laying about on my desk. I have a few little bits that don't really have a home that I find after I've tidied up, so they just go in a little pot on my desk. and I thought that would be perfect because I cooked Christmas, so it was at our house. These are some label stamps from Ellie's studio that I stamped out. I stamped them out in bulk, and I did this for Ellie's Sunday last week. So these are the leftovers. I think this is in, I'm just looking at my inks, iced spruce I think I used for this one. So just using a circular one that I punched out with my circle 1¼ inch circle punch, and then this label piece. So just gluing those down as I go, because I'm starting to build things up. If I don't do it as I go, I forget what's glued down and what's not now, so important to add the glue as I go. So now I'm going to start going through some of my older Christmas stash. This is an Ellie Studio wood veneer set from a few years ago called Good Cheer, and I really like this circular wooden piece. So I'm going to use that, and I'm also using a Hey Little Magpie flare badge, and just having a play to decide whether I want the flare at the top or the bottom, but it stays at the bottom in the end underneath that Home Sweet Home. It works nicely with that label stamp, and then the wood veneer snowflake gets moved up to the top. So here's the swap now, and I like the balance of that, having them on the diagonal. So again, just gluing them down with my PVA glue. Next, I'm going through, again, the Good Cheer from Ellie's Studio. These are ephemera pieces, and I love this red star, so I want to get that in there. And then just having a look through to see what else I might want to use, and I find this circle that says December the 25th. And of course, this is Christmas Day, so that has to be used on this one. So just working out the positioning. I wasn't quite sure at first whether I wanted to overlap in the photo or tucked behind, but we do go with it tucked behind in the end. So gluing the star down, and I love that we've got that red pop of red at the top and then again at the bottom with the star. So just trimming the bottom of that off to make it easier to tuck behind that photo, and there it is. So next, these are Pink Fresh Studio Christmas from a couple of years ago, and I find this word strip that just says be filled with joy, and that fits in really nicely down that side of that photo. Just making sure that it's straight. I struggled with that today, I don't know why. And then this tag, and I just trim off the top of the tag to tuck underneath that piece of paper at the bottom of the layout. So I've still got that lovely piece of the tag left to use on a different layout, just as a square. Think about putting it at the top, but it definitely doesn't go. So gluing that down, and then I'll come in with my wax thread in red and just loop that over the end of the page. And once I've done that, I realise I definitely want to do the same at the top of the page. So you'll see how I do that in a minute, because I don't have any more tags in the ephemera pack. And at the top, we don't want anything quite as big as this one, because there's already quite a lot going on up there. So just securing it down with some washi tape that I've got. So again, it was just on my desk. I think it's a Simple Stories washi tape. And now going through to see what else I have. So I'm using this star paper again to create the tag at the top of the page. And as I say, I don't want it to be a big tag because there's already quite a lot going on up there. And I don't want to cover up all that doodling that I've done. So just creating the tag shape, and then I'll come in with my crocodile in a minute to create the hole at the top. And then once again, using the red wax thread that I've still got there on my desk, I'll loop it over the top of the layout and secure it on the back. Just having a look to see if I wanted to use the green side, but decide that the grey is definitely better up here. It's just having to pull things up a little bit because of course it's all glued down now. Scuffing up the edges, and then here's the red wax thread. And that'll just, as I say, I'll loop that over the top of the page to echo what I've done at the bottom. They're not in line with one another, which I didn't want anyway, but it just provides balance where we've got the staggering all the photos and everything here. Can't always explain, because I didn't do design at school, so I can't always explain why I do the things that I do, but it just looks right to my eye, so that's why I do it. And now, with it being a Christmas layout, I definitely wanted to add some sparkle, so coming in with my bag of sequins and just dotting a few of the gold ones around, and then I've got some smaller flat backed sequins that are going as a companion to those bigger cupped sequins. And then finally, when I've got these gold ones down, I find a couple of red ones that I want to add as well. So just gluing these down first. And this glue bottle actually is brilliant for that. It's Crafter's Companion, and you get them in a pack of 2, and they were only a couple of quid. They were great, but this thin nozzle that they have on them. The only problem is the pin doesn't stay in very well, so I wouldn't recommend travelling with them at all. But just to have them on your desk at home. They are really handy bottles. Just struggling because I've got some glue on my finger, so of course everything's sticking to my finger rather than the layout. Tapping the page to make sure that everything's glued down. And then here I am coming in with, oh, I've done the red, sorry. These are some Shimmerz, I think they were, enamel stars in yellow. Oh, and here are the red sequins. Once I put those stars on, I found the red ones and thought they would look nice. So just dotting those about the page. And then I shall glue those down. I just love sequins at this time of year. And that's pretty much it. Just need to add the date, and that'll go on that little round label underneath the Home Sweet Home piece. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for continuing to join me. And I shall see you again very soon with another video. Thank you. Bye.